was wrestling paradise has turned into a war zone. A war zone. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Sigdaddy's Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Skylar Sigdaddy Sigmund, alongside my assistant to the host, I'll just say, J.O., and we're going to be talking about some AEW here today because, my God, the last week of news has just been ridiculous. The news, like, there was one thing that's completely overshadowed everything. You already know what that is. We're going to discuss that, and we're going to give you our thoughts on that as well. So we'll get into that here in a moment. Also, just wanted to say we'll go back to that series we were going to do. It was a series, but like we were going to follow up that 2016. Why 2016 was the last great year for WWE. With why 2017 was an awful year. We'll get back to that here in the very near future. But we thought we should cover AEW this week since it's been an incredible news week for them. Not in the best way. No, not an incredible in a good way. It was an incredibly bad week for them, to say the least, J.O.
You are not wrong, Sigdaddy. I remember keep checking Twitter, refreshing, and hearing all of these new things that were coming out and trying to keep up with all the madness. Crazy week.
It's overwhelming, to be honest. It's pretty overwhelming. We'll also talk about, I'm going to give you my theory on where this backstage problems start, why these are happening now more so than they ever were in the first, 3 years of existence for AEW.
Yeah.
I have a theory. We'll get into it here momentarily. But firstly, All Out. We're like, okay, this is going to be a solid show. It was. AEW usually puts out really good pay-per-views. This was not one of their best ones by any stretch of the imagination, to be honest. It was a good one. But it wasn't to the level of the other ones. I put this in the bottom tier, but there was still some great wrestling involved. There were some questionable booking decisions at certain points, but I thought there were still some great matches, including Punk and Moxley, the main event, the Trios tag title match, which you look at those two matches historically now, they're kind of irrelevant at this point.
Right. Kind of puts a blemish on not just the matches, the entire pay-per-view now.
Yeah. So if you look at that, those two, without those two blemishes, the only really bright spot I thought in the show was the AEW World Tag Team Championship match between Swerve and Our Glory and The Acclaimed. My God, that was my favorite match of the night. The crowd involvement, Bowen selling, everything was just so great about it. The Swerve and Keith Lee adjusting on the fly, going heel mid-match. It was perfect. Like, it was literally like the acclaims, the acclaimed, I don't know how to say it. Their coming out party, because they had a fantastic match. And then it was, people were like online, were on the Twitterverse, were thinking they should have switched the booking mid-match. I don't think so. This makes the moment when they do win it even bigger. By the way, they have a rematch set up at AEW Grand Slam coming up in just a few weeks. So we're in a good spot with them, I think. But we get Punk winning the AEW World Championship again. Right. Then we have Kenny Omega and the Bucks winning the Trios tag titles. And then the media scrum happens. And oh boy. J.O., what was your take on Punk's comments? I sent you a video clip on the media scrum. How could you describe it to the folks at home if they haven't seen it already, which I'm surprised if you haven't?
If you zoomed in on Punk, I didn't think it was at first anything out of the ordinary, but the story is told from Khan's reactions. And looking at that overall and then just rewatching it, that's when I started seeing like, oh shoot, there's some realness to this. There's something going on here. And it gave me, I mean, CM Punk's no stranger to calling it like it is. We all know that. So knowing that and seeing the reactions to Khan, all that together, that's what got me thinking, okay, this is legit. There's something going on here.
There's legitimate beef here. And
Yeah.
what Punk did to kind of give you a Cliff Note version of it, he pretty much went over the whole thing with Colt Cabana. I don't even know if he was asked about it, but he pretty much covered it. And he didn't want anything. He was pretty much, he got pissed off because someone leaked a rumor, and he was assuming it was one of the EVPs that Punk wanted him fired. Punk wanted Colt Cabana fired because Punk and Colt Cabana, they had their legal issues after that episode they did of The Art of Wrestling, that something against Chris Damon, the athletic trainer at WWE, all this stuff. This is like almost 8 years later. It's about 7-8 years or so later. Punk's tired of talking about it, but he's pissed that someone's out leaking rumors, one of the EVPs, and he called Hangman Page a dumb, F word at one point. And then he was angry. And he said at one point he's tired of working with kids like that don't listen. If I remember that correct. So from Fightful Select, this is what it said. This is the Bucks side of the story. The Bucks and Kenny Omega side of the story. They went to talk to Punk, just like he said at the media scrum that anyone can take it up with him. Pretty much, this is all in quotes. So Bucks and Omega side of things say they opened the door and were trying to, before Matt Jackson could even say anything, Punk threw a sucker punch at his face.
Ooh.
Then Nick Jackson tried to intervene, and then Ace Steel, Punk's buddy, one of the coaches in AEW, allegedly threw a chair that hit Nick in the eye. As for Omega, he was trying to remove Punk's dog, who was at the show, Larry. He was barking and going crazy.
Jesus, I didn't know a dog was involved.
It was shown Punk was walking his dog before the show as he was arriving at the show with Ace Steel. Once Omega got the dog out of the room, he tried to get Ace Steel off of Nick Jackson, and then bit Kenny Omega and pulled on his hair. End quote.
Jeez.
And so eventually
there's hair pulling, there's biting. This is a fight.
And Punk apparently alleged that they kicked the door down. So there's that. There's two sides of the story. Anyway, the Justin Barrasso report that all these guys are suspended, including coaches that weren't even really in the fight. They were just there to break it up. Like Omega, Nick Jackson, Pat Buck, Christopher Daniels, Michael Nakazawa, and Brandon Cutler. They were all suspended. And then so then they suspend all those guys. Punk has a meeting with Tony Khan yesterday. That was that was a report. So I'm pretty sure from Fightful that they had that meeting, Punk and Tony Khan, where he could have been fired from the company, but I don't think he is right now. As of right now, I've heard anything about him being fired. But
I haven't seen it either.
This is a very tumultuous situation right now. And to add on to all this, J.O., it was reported on Wrestling Observer Radio that Punk needs surgery now. He's out 6 to 8 months.
Man. So even if there wasn't a suspension, he would have been gone anyway.
Mm-hmm. And what sucks about this situation so much, like, God, MJF had his return on at All Out, and it was freaking-tastic. It was great. The way it was executed at the end of the show was perfect.
No one's talking about it.
But then, yeah, no one's talking about it because all this other backstage BS takes place. Where's the leadership here? And like so Jo, should Tony Khan have stopped Punk during that scrum? Like, just stopped him completely. Because he literally was, not that I'm defending either side. Both sides are wrong in some way or another.
Maybe because it's hard. I doubt he could have predicted that it would have escalated to that. I bet he was thinking, like, okay, Punk's pissed. I'll let him have his words. I mean, fuck, it'll probably be a decent headlines, get some attention, but that's all it'll be. It'll just be this tantrum. I don't think he knew it could have escalated that into that much.
Well, he brought the EVPs in on it. That's the thing.
True. Yeah, when you start bringing in management and stuff like that, then
some of the founding members of the company.
Yeah, he probably could have maybe
he crossed the line there.
Yeah, he probably could have given him a quick bump or something, or just leaned in. It's like, bro, you need to chill. Like, come on. But maybe that would have made it worse. Like, maybe he would have started on stage in front of the cameras, and then it just escalate into who knows if it could have been worse.
There's a third party involved in this, by the way, that is part of the external third parties investigating this backstage incident, according to sources. That's through the SI report by Justin Barrasso. But both sides are in the wrong here. It's in some way or another. Because you can't just let stuff escalate to that point. You got to work the shit out. Sorry, pardon my language. You got to work it out at some point, or otherwise this is going to fester and fester and fester and fester. And then it's going to turn into a big blow up like we just saw last weekend.
Right.
Like, it's here's my theory on this, Jo. To everyone at home, Cody Rhodes' departure is part of this why this happened. Because none of this crap had happened to this level before Cody left.
Can't be a coincidence.
It's a coincidence because you know the Eddie Kingston, Sammy Guevara situation where Sammy fat shamed Eddie Kingston and Eddie Kingston took a swing at him. That didn't happen before that I know of. That's been reported. The locker room is not in good shape right now there. It used to be like a freaking paradise, but now it's turned into a disaster, which led to a meeting, according to Fightful Select, between the talent and Bryan Danielson, Chris Jericho, and Jon Moxley leading a meeting yesterday.
Well, who led this meeting?
Danielson, Jericho, and Moxley.
See, if there were people who I thought would have been, who I think could be leaders, it'd be those guys.
Yes.
Definitely be those guys.
But my lord, I feel like that Cody leaving really affected things backstage.
Yeah, I would agree. He was the leading guy in all of this, the heart and soul of AEW. Now he's gone.
Well, you know that he's had experience working in other major companies. Like he not only has the independent and not completely major league like WWE, not like he worked below WWE and at WWE level. He knows how stuff works there.
He's been everywhere. He's done it all. and that experience is what
Very
helps him create
key.
this. Yeah,
Like nothing against Kenny or the Bucks. Those guys don't have that kind of WWE experience, like experiencing backstage like that at a major league level.
no, and with all the moving parts involved in something like this, you need to be able to know how to handle it. You need to be able to know how to handle it.
Like, not that I was a fan of Cody's late work in AEW. I was not, for the most part. I was not a fan of his Cody-verse related stuff. But man, as a leader backstage, you could tell there's a difference between him when he was there and when he left. There is a stark difference because this got to a ridiculous level, and it's gonna take some time to make up for this problem, and there's gonna be legal ramifications. Who knows? Ace Steel's probably fired. CM Punk is probably not going to be fired, but he's out for 8 months and stuff. And he's probably going to get suspended on top of that.
You mean even after the 8 months, he's going to be suspended again?
I'm not 100% sure on that. That's probably that's not likely. That's a little overboard, but still, Punk and the Bucks and Kenny got suspended, and people that were just involved trying to break up the fight got suspended just to cover their butts, pretty much.
And you think the suspensions were justified, right?
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, I when I read that, I was actually kind of glad. Like, okay, they're laying the hammer down, which they should.
If you're involved in any way in this situation, it only it's like, here's a comparison, Jo. Let's get into sports here, really. It's like a bench clearing brawl in basketball. Even if you're not involved in the fight, and it's like a ridiculously big fight, like the Mouse at the Palace. As a Pacers fan, I'm reminded of that constantly.
Yep.
People who weren't even involved in the fight got suspended for games.
Yeah, there were plenty of people just trying
Reggie Miller was injured, and he had to come off the bench, and they suspended him for a few games. So if you're involved in any way getting off the bench, you're going to get suspended. It's just the same thing here. You're involved at all in this scuffle, breaking it up or whatever, you're going to get suspended probably.
Most likely.
But it's just the Cody thing. It's the Cody factor. I'm telling you, because we don't see this stuff happen. We didn't see this stuff happening beforehand. There was a little chatter about backstage there was a little, the Bucks and Cody don't really talk and all that, but nothing that's to this kind of extreme.
Yeah, not to this extreme. Nothing came out. Yeah, because I mean, who knows what kind of other stuff was brewing, but Cody being there was able to just simmer it down and then get it handled.
Yeah, and Hangman Page, when that situation arose, because if I'm correct here, is because Page took a shot at Punk during a promo talking about him being about workers' rights, and he said he's been the opposite since he's been here about that.
Man. Someone has to. Everyone, the VPs, of course, have to do their part, but everyone.
Well, everything comes down to Tony at the end.
Yeah. And I asked you the other day, it's like, what experience does he really have of running something like this? Like, does he know how to handle a situation like this?
Because his dad runs the Jaguars.
Yeah.
But this is a wrestling organization. This is like,
yeah.
You need people there. He needs to delegate. That's what it is. At a certain point, he's got to delegate.
Oh, yeah. He can't fix this by himself by any means. There's no way he can fix it by himself.
But, yeah, it's so frustrating. Because the company had been on a kind of a hot streak recently. Like, not recently, but the last few years, they've been building some momentum up a bit. But this takes it down slightly. And honestly, I'm not sure if they're going to feel the absence of Punk moving forward as much as people think they will. And this doesn't shine the best of light on Punk again.
No.
Because it just sounds like he's coming off as an ass backstage too.
There were signs of that in the Big Dub also, wasn't there?
Yeah. And so I love Punk. I love him as a performer. He's fan freaking tastic. But man, his like very forthright with what he says. And that doesn't rub people the wrong way all the time. I'm not saying like not sugarcoating stuff, but like when he says it very bluntly, it's like, God. And there was somebody that spliced two different promos from last year and this year together, where Punk says, "I'm ready to work with all these hungry young guys," and then a year later, pretty much exactly a year later, it's like, I'm tired of these young kids not. I'm old. I'm tired of these young kids not listening. I'm tired of working with kids. He says, "I'm old. And I'm tired of working with kids who don't want to listen," or something like that. I'm like, oh, yeah, Lord, what a year!
Changing his tune real quick.
Like, dude, he looks like he's aged like 4 or 5 years in a year.
Yeah, yes, he has some white in his old goatee.
Like, he looks like he aged since quite a bit since last year.
Maybe it's the stress of everything that's been slowly boiling on and then just finally erupting this past weekend.
And then also Hangman Page, he apparently said during some press conference at some point that he doesn't listen to advice anymore, really listen to advice, which is not probably the best thing to say at the age of just 30, 31, but
wait, Punk doesn't take advice anymore?
Hangman Page.
Okay. Oh, man, that's the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do is
stop learning.
Not even just, I was about to say, not even just professional wrestlers. The worst thing anybody can do, man, woman, child, is to stop learning.
I see, like, I agree. There's like certain points on both sides I get. And then there's others things that's like, oh, God. But then Punk's like off that thing, Punk's going off assumptions that an EVP leaked that information about Colt, about Punk wanting Colt fired. So does he have the actual source that did it? Or like, I know he's not going to bluntly state a source, but it's like, okay, who told you this?
Right. And if it is a EVP, then that's another fault of the people up top. So why are you doing this? Like, why would you?
What do you get out of this, really? We're all trying to make this a successful company, and you're kind of, I don't know. This is where you need more people, like, because everything comes down to Tony at this point. There's got to be other people involved in these kinds of situations that can help fix the problem. I know everything comes down to Tony, but there's got to be a way to delegate this, because it's just the wild, wild west backstage, it seems like.
Yeah, no, I would love to see how things are going back there.
Because you know how stringent the WWE backstage stuff is. They're like incredibly strict. But it seems like the wild, wild west in AEW, it's like, okay, we need to meet somewhere in the middle here.
Right.
I would think. Not that I'm an expert on anything. I know jack shit about anything wrestling backstage. I just feel like there's got to be some kind of medium you got to reach at some point, because you can't just have everyone just doing whatever the hell they want. You can't.
They need an Undertaker.
Like somebody said, wrestler's court. I'm like, that's not probably the best idea, but maybe they do need it. Who knows?
I mean, shit, that's what WWE have been doing for years. And, it
worked at some point.
Yeah, it started working at some point.
Yeah. But, in other news too, besides MJF returning, Christian Cage will be out for 9 months, likely, according to Meltzer. So that's great. another injury.
Love.
Bobby Fish has gone from the company as well, if you don't know already. Adam Cole is still out that I know of. And Jimmy Christmas.
AEW's down bad.
Though the ratings are not down bad, I'll say that.
Well, of course they're not, because this has been the most interesting. As a person who can admit that they're a casual, this is the most exciting AEW has seemed to me in a while. I tuned in Wednesday night for a little bit just to see the ramifications of what happened.
Yeah, Jo doesn't usually tune in. Yeah, you don't tune in usually.
I usually don't, not to AEW. But I wanted to see what was going on, and I wanted to mention, like, I texted you it, but my God, Tony Khan looks like he's dying on the inside when he was giving that announcement.
Yeah, he was not even blinking at all, really.
No.
Poor
guy.
So but the thing was, even though that was a bad news week for them, a really, 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 really bad news week for them. AEW Dynamite was a much needed reprieve from that. Like, it was good. It was a really good episode, I thought. This first full episode, I checked out and just in a little bit, but AEW, according to Brian Alvarez, he sent out the ratings this week. They drew over 1 million viewers this week. So that's a good week for them. Brian Alvarez tweeted that out earlier. We had a really good MJF cut a babyface promo at the beginning of the show, but before turning heel after John Moxley came out, and he cut like a very impassioned promo. Did you see that part, Jo?
I think I was reading the tweets people were talking about it, but I didn't get a chance to see the promo.
It was very good promo. If you haven't checked it all out already, it's definitely on YouTube. You'll find it. And I remember, I think John referenced the backstage politics BS, and that's not what it was supposed to be about when this company was founded. And so he was very good and very impassioned. The guy could cut a promo on a broom. I literally tweeted that out last night. He could cut a promo about a broom.
Yeah.
And he could cut an impassioned promo about a broom, and I'd be invested in it.
But with even though it's being overshadowed, it's definitely something AEW does need to have MJF come back. I think it's something they sorely will need, especially with the absence of everyone.
Well, MJF is bad. Yeah, MJF needed. He was a much welcome sight back on the show. He was needed. He was great too. He did fantastic in his role on the show. And you also noticed, if you didn't notice in the intros to the show, Punk nor the Bucks were featured on that.
Really?
Bucks and Kenny Omega. I know at least I'm pretty sure the Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Punk were not featured on the video package to start the show.
Man, they're quick with it.
They're on point with that. But Tony Khan did announce on the show that new Trios champions were going to be crowned, as well as a new AEW World Champion. But the Trios championships would be decided that night, where Death Triangle defeated Orange Cassidy and Best Friends. Very fun Trios match. Death Triangle gets the dub. Pac is a double champ now.
Two-pack?
Two-pack, yep. Oh, two-pack. Yeah, All-Atlantic champ and now the Trios champions. I was hoping actually Orange Cassidy and Best Friends won it, but that's okay. I'll take Death Triangle winning it. It'll probably set up a good match for the future with the Elite when they do return, depending how long the suspension is. But that was good. As well as this first round matchup in the AEW World Championship Tournament. They did announce that's going to culminate at Arthur Ashe Stadium on September 21st. First round matchups. First of the first round matchups are Hangman Adam Page taking on Bryan Danielson. And so Danielson did not have a win against Hangman Adam Page yet. He was 0-1-1. They had a great series of matches that happened free on TV I'll have you. And they had another banger on free TV. Bryan Danielson actually gets the win this time with a O'Connor roll with a bridge, advancing him to the semifinals to take on Chris Jericho, who has the bye. Second first round match will be on Rampage this Friday. Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. John Moxley will take on the winner of that. Is when that, like I said, Jericho will take on Danielson in the semifinal. Final takes place at AEW Dynamite Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe, September 21st. So that'll be an interesting tournament. I'm kind of tired of tournaments at this point, but what else? What else can they do really at this point?
Fair, yeah.
Because I think they want to hold off. They want to hold off MJF winning the title, at least. And CM Punk winning the title. We've learned a few things through this process, everybody. CM Punk is not meant to hold the AEW World Championship.
It's cursed up for him.
He gets hurt and or suspended.
Or both.
Or fired. No, I don't think he's fired, but he's definitely suspended. He's injured, so he's going to have surgery. He'll be out a while. So that's pretty much suspension in itself. But we also got an announcement, J.O. The Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory 2 for Arthur Ashe. Grand Slam.
Pretty solid.
That was
Pretty
smart.
solid.
That was smart. And what they did was even smarter. How this was executed, so everyone was hyped. It's like, oh man, Max Caster's going to come out with this epic rap tonight. He is going to. It's like everyone was looking forward to that. But as he was getting ready to cut it to rap, Swerve Strickland comes out and interrupts him. It was great. Perfect. It was, and Swerve was total heel there because everyone hated that. They were just waiting for the rap from Caster. But we got the announcement later on the show for that tag championship match. Hopefully they actually crown the Acclaimed there because I think it's about time because they're just hot. If you got to capitalize when they're hot.
Agreed.
And I know FTR is waiting in the wings at some point. FTR was also asking for first dibs, which I agree. They should have been champions a long time ago again, but that's all right. And then at the end of the show, we get Daniel Garcia defeating Wheeler Yuta in his hometown to win the ROH Pure Championship. Yeah, so Daniel Garcia in Buffalo, New York, wins the AEW, not the AEW, but the ROH Pure Championship. Really good match there as well. Yeah, Danielson come out at the end because if you don't know, Danielson and Garcia had a series of matches recently, and Danielson's trying to tell him, you're a wrestler, not a sports entertainer. So there's this friction between Garcia, and he's having to choose sides between Jericho Appreciation Society and Blackpool Combat Club. It's a really cool dynamic, and this should be fun. It makes for compelling TV moving forward, but this was a much needed reprieve. Really good show. Just get our focus away from all the freaking drama.
Yeah, just hopefully not so, as they put behind them. I don't mean ignore, but yeah, just keep moving forward with the company, put on some good wrestling matches, and then that's really the best thing they can do for it.
Yeah, the show's professional wrestling there, so hopefully they can keep up these good shows. Just other people are going to get an opportunity now that Punk's not on the show.
Yeah,
and so that'll help things, and we'll see who the new world champion is. I'm hoping it's Danielson actually by the end of this.
I'd like that. That'd be dope.
I'd like it too. Or Moxley, man. I don't care. Moxley can hold the championship anytime. I think they're kind of foreshadowing that as him winning the title again, which I don't really care because the dude's a freaking MVP. He was the MVP during the pandemic era. This dude was about to go on vacation. He got called to come back because the Punk situation happened. So you know what? The ace. He's the ace, as people like to say. He is the ace of AEW. Jon Moxley is.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, because he whenever you need him, he will come in the clutch. Good match, good promo, anything you need from him, he's going to do when you need him to do it.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
All right. So that'll conclude our talk about AEW this week. Coming up next week on the show, we'll talk about 2017 being an awful, poopy, shitty year for WWE. Mark my words. Even though Braun Strowman was a bright spot in that year, it's still a shitty year. We'll talk about that here next week on the show. J.O., where can everyone find you before we go?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Jeremy Ordas, all lowercase.
All right. You can find Sigdaddy's Wrestling Show on Facebook, Twitter, and on TikTok at Sigdaddy Wrestling, and on Instagram at sigdaddy.wrestle. You can listen to Sigdaddy's Wrestling Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Amazon Music, wherever you can get your dang podcast. You can probably find Sigdaddy's Wrestling Show. Maybe you should subscribe. Maybe you should give it a 5-star review if you like the show. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, folks. But be ready for 2017 next week, my Lord. But yeah, we'll be back with that 2017 being an awful year for WWE for next week's episode. So until next time, that's J.O. I'm Skylar Sigdaddy Sigmund signing off, saying thanks for listening. And so long, everybody.